O eternal and almighty God, from whom all power and wisdom come, we are assembled here before thee to frame such laws as may tend to the welfare and prosperity of our province. Grant, O merciful God, we pray thee, that we may desire only that which is in accordance with thy will, that we may seek it with wisdom and know it with certainty and accomplish it perfectly. For the glory and honor of thy name and for the welfare of all our people. Amen. We acknowledge we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory and that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Dakota Oete, Dene Sulene, Neothog nations. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We acknowledge northern Manitoba includes lands that were and are the ancestral lands of the Inuit. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. Please be seated. Orders of the day, introduction of bills, committee reports, tabling of reports, ministerial statements. The Honourable First Minister.
Honourable Speaker, I want to table these documents here that are English translations of the Dakota language statement on Indigenous Language Day that I'm now going to deliver. Washte, ikche wichashta eapi teo chidapkehe, ampetuki de nina eomakpedo. Tukte taha unhipkashta eatipi, bede mini washte, asinaboin wakpa, otanaha oshpaye, Manitoba ish unchi makoche. Tonana chajeba tekte, oyateke hena ikche wichashta eapi unkumpedo. How? Heche Otecheki, Dakota, Anishinaabe, Cree, Anisiniinu, Métis, Inuit, Naku Dene, Eapkahu, Tokataki Azania Umtedo. How? Heche Ikche Wichashta Iapi, Iako Kichiaptedo. Wopida.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Language is more than a means of communication. It's a thread that connects us all. It's through language that we share compassion, trust, and understanding. It's through language we pass on stories, culture, and tradition from generation to generation. This thread, however, is delicate and can be jeopardized. In Canada's history, we have seen systematic attempts to erase Indigenous languages in an effort to erase these threads. That's why Indigenous Languages Day, coming this Monday, March 31st, has great significance. It's an opportunity to celebrate, protect, and preserve languages that should never been stripped from its peoples. We must recognize Manitoba as playing a vital role in uplifting Indigenous languages. By working together, we can ensure these languages will live on. We can foster understanding, invest in education, and even increase cultural viability and visibility. Last year, we saw a groundbreaking project come to life where Winnipeg helped produce and hosted the world premiere of Star Wars in Ojibwe. Just one example of Manitoba leading the way. More than just a matter of preserving words, this is about safeguarding the cultures, histories, and identities they carry. Languages carry with them the wisdom of generations.
Please. The member's time has expired. Does the member have leave to complete his response? Agreed, and so ordered. The Honourable Member for Selkirk.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Languages carry with them the wisdom of generations. So I ask all Manitobans to commemorate Indigenous Languages Day on this Monday to ensure the youth of today and tomorrow inherit the richness and the cultures and traditions that have helped shape Manitoba. Miigwech, merci, thank you.
Member statements. The Honourable Member for Seine River.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise today to honour a man who had a huge impact on my life and the lives of many people in our province. Greg Daniels is a former educator who spent decades working in schools across the River East Transcona School Division, teaching, leading, and coaching basketball even to students of all ages, from elementary to high school. I am proud to award him the King Charles Coronation Award for his lifetime of community service. Greg played basketball for the University of Manitoba men's basketball team. In 1976, he helped them become the first and only men's team in Manitoba to win the national championship, achieving this with a completely local roster. He dominated the sport at many levels, playing for the Nicollet Inn senior men's team, which won 3 national championships. Greg has served in many roles throughout his career, including teacher, coach, vice principal, principal, and finally, as an assistant superintendent in the River East Transcona School Division. He has guided the paths of countless students and changed their lives for the better. Greg was my leadership teacher for 3 years at Murdoch McKay Collegiate, where I learned how to lead, coach, ref, and how to be an effective organizer. Our paths continued to cross. He was my oldest daughter's principal, and we coached her school team together. Later, he was my principal when I was an EA at Miles Mac. The leadership skills I developed under Greg's guidance have stuck with me my entire life and have helped me on the journey to this place. Good teachers and good people leave lasting impressions. Greg continues to contribute to the community. He sits on the board of the U of M Men's Alumni Basketball Committee, helping raise money to support their team. He has raised money for the tennis courts at Victoria Beach and the Red River Assiniboine Multi-Use Winter Trail Project. Greg, I commend you for the contributions you have made to our province. Your leadership guided me to the path I am on today, and I am so proud to stand here and honor you. I ask that the names of Greg and his family members be added to Hansard, and his daughter Kate is watching from afar in England. Now, I ask that my colleagues please join me in congratulating Greg on being awarded the King Charles Coronation Award.
The Honourable Member for Portage La Prairie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Oak Tree Towers has been a part of the Portage La Prairie landscape for as long as I can remember. But the Oak Tree Towers of today bears little resemblance to the 55-plus block it once was. Today, the residents of Oak Tree Towers live their lives in fear. Over the past 18 months, living conditions at Oak Tree Towers have rapidly deteriorated. Residents describe themselves as being prisoners in their own homes. Another local agency, Portage Services for Seniors, has also confirmed the situation and has sent a letter to the minister. A very few tenants are creating these unsafe conditions, but they are harboring individuals who are sleeping, urinating, defecating in the hallways. Worse, the tenants are engaging in illicit activities, including suspected drug production and sex trafficking, yet complaints to Manitoba Housing have gone ignored, or worse, staff has told residents, stop calling. I will close with the words of one senior who has resided at Oak Tree Towers for years and whose emails to the minister have been ignored. I promised not to use their name. I pay rent to live here, yet my right to a peaceful existence is being denied. While those engaging in illegal activities are being allowed the freedom to disrupt the lives of other tenants, if I do end up dead from extreme stress and sleep deprivation brought about by intolerable conditions at Oak Tree Towers, I am giving my MLA permission to release every email. I hope never to have to share those emails, but I am losing faith in this minister's ability or desire to do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Order, please. I would ask the member if that is a public document that he's reading from. If not, he will have to table it. The honourable member for Portage la Prairie.
My apologies, Honourable Speaker. It is not a public document, and the author has asked me not to.
You can redact.
Okay.
Order, please. You can still table a document, just redact the name on it. So please table it. The honourable member for Portage la Prairie.
Honourable Speaker, I will redact the statement.
Order, please.
Sorry, not.
Just need to redact the name on it and then table the document you were reading from. The honourable member for Portage la Prairie.
Yes.
Order. Resuming member statements, the Honourable Minister of Labour and Immigration.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today to commemorate a remarkable milestone in our province's history, the 150th anniversary of the founding of the Grand Lodge of Manitoba, ancient, free, and accepted Masons established in 1875. The celebration honors 150 years of fellowship, charity, and unwavering service that has strengthened our communities and shaped the character of generations of Manitobans. The roots of Freemasonry in Manitoba stretch back to the early days of the Red River settlement, beginning with the arrival of John Palmer Burke in 1813 and the formation of the Northern Light Lodge in 1864, led by John Schultz, Andrew G.B. Bannatyne, and William Inkster, who laid the foundation for the Grand Lodge of Manitoba, which has established itself as a pillar of this fraternal organization even beyond Manitoba. Freemasonry has significantly shaped our province's heritage. 12 premiers were proud members of this fraternity, and the architect of this very building, Frank W. Simon, was also a Freemason who weaved the organization's legacy into the very structure of this seat of government. Manitoba's Freemasons continue to shape our society through community service and charitable initiatives. In Notre Dame, Empire Lodge 127 on Alexander Avenue hosts an annual Canada Day fundraiser for the North End Women's Centre. Philcan Cable Tow Lodge 189 fundraises for bursaries to students at Techvock High School and Daniel McIntyre Collegiate. The Grand Lodge of Manitoba supports Cancer Care Manitoba through its Wheels of Hope program and partners with Canadian Blood Services for annual blood drives. St. John's Lodge 4 and Manitoba Maharlika Lodge 192 have annual fundraising campaigns for the Children's Hospital Foundation, and these examples represent only a fraction of the charity that Freemasons provide. Joining us in the gallery today are the leadership and officers of the Grand Lodge of Manitoba and members of the Manitoba Freemasons. And Honourable Speaker, I would like to submit their names to Hansard. As we celebrate this extraordinary sesquicentennial milestone, I offer my heartfelt congratulations to all in the Freemason community. Thank you.
The honourable member for Riding Mountain.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The Birdtail Sioux Dakota Nation recently welcomed a number of bison back to their ancestral home west of Beulah, thanks to a working arrangement with the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation located near Oak Lake. More than 100 community members, more than half of them students, welcomed the bison at a special ceremony in December. Sioux Valley, who have been raising bison for over 15 years, gave 11 animals to Birdtail with the intent of strengthening the Dakota identity and culture. Among the gifted herd was a special white buffalo, which holds significance in the Indigenous culture. In May 2016, Sioux Valley welcomed a rare white male calf. The calf's mother, also white, was born at the Assiniboine Park Zoo in 2009 and given to the Sioux Valley herd. A white bison symbolizes purity, spirituality, and the promise of prosperity. It is believed to be a powerful omen and a message from the Creator. For thousands of years, Native Americans relied heavily on bison for their survival and well-being, using every part of the animal for food, clothing, shelter, tools, jewelry, and in ceremonies. The decimation of millions of bison in the 1800s by non-Indigenous hunters using repeater rifles was pivotal to the tragic end for these majestic animals. The hunters wanted just the hides, leaving the carcasses behind to rot. There are still reminders of the bison that once roamed the plains of the Birdtail Sioux Nation. An old bison jump is visible to the north, and bison skulls and bones are found along the banks of the Assiniboine River every summer. For now, the bison are living in a small enclosure, but the Birdtail Sioux leadership hopes to grow the herd and the land they roam on, providing young and old with a connection to the Dakota culture for generations to come. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thompson.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I rise in the House to recognize an outstanding young athlete from Shamattawa First Nation and a student at RDPC in Thompson. Corey Beardy. Corey is a dedicated and determined cross-country skier who recently brought home a gold medal from the 2025 Special Olympics World Winter Games in Turin, Italy. His remarkable achievements serve as an inspiration not only to his community, but to all Manitobans who admire perseverance, dedication, and sportsmanship. Corey's journey in cross-country skiing has been nothing short of incredible. His coach and teammates affectionately call him the Energizer Bunny, a testament to his boundless energy, relentless work ethic, and unwavering passion for the sport. Training 4 to 5 times a week, Corey has demonstrated the level of commitment required to compete at the highest level. His dedication paid off, earning him a spot on Team Canada for the Special Olympics World Winter Games. Earlier this year, over 1,500 athletes from across the world gathered in Italy to compete in these prestigious games. Corey proudly represented Manitoba and Canada, competing in multiple events with great determination. He placed 5th in the 500-meter classic race, finished just shy of the podium in the 1K classic race, securing him an impressive 4th-place finish. However, his defining moment came when he and his teammates captured a gold medal in the 4x 1K cross-country relay, showcasing not only his athletic prowess, but also incredible teamwork and sportsmanship. His victory has only fueled Corey's ambition. He has set his sights on representing Team Canada once again at the 2029 Special Olympics World Winter Game in Switzerland. With his tenacity and drive, I have no doubt that we will see him continue to shine on the world stage. Let's congratulate Corey together.
The Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie.
Honourable Speaker, on House business.
Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie on House business.
Honourable Speaker, I'm looking for your guidance on this. In my private member statement where I did quote that email was sent to the minister, I still need copies of that?
Yes, please table it. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Honourable Speaker, on House business, is there a leave to include the English text tabled by the Premier in Hansard immediately after the Dakota text that the Premier gave?
Hansard has made it clear.
Is there leave to include the English text that the Premier tabled in Hansard immediately following his statement? Agreed, and so ordered. Oral questions. The Honourable Member for Roblin.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Last week, the Housing Minister told the media that, quote, about 12 people had been housed as a result of the Your Way Home strategy. At a rate of 6 individuals per month, it would take the NDP nearly 10 years to house the nearly 700 people currently living in encampments across Manitoba. This is a far cry from the 30-day timeline the Premier promised Manitobans in January. The The weather is eventually warming up, and with that come more and more encampments and more concern from Winnipeggers living, working, and visiting our downtown. Does the NDP have any plan at all to prevent these encampments from growing this spring?
The Honourable First Minister.
The issue of homelessness is one that demands compassion and a humanitarian response. I'm very proud of our minister who is taking real steps to put people into housing with dignity. The members opposite did absolutely nothing on homelessness over 2 terms in government. And today they want to throw stones. They're free to do so. But Manitobans know how bad things got under their watch. Our team is bringing forward real solutions. What the members opposite failed to do, however, is to bring forward real leadership. They have a contest going on between a Trump appeaser and a Trump supporter. And they're about to bring one of those forward as the leader of their party. I would ask the member opposite, where does she stand in that leadership contest? Does she stand with the person who opposes a woman's right to choose, or will she continue to stand with these documents that I table with the other leadership candidate who, while we were pulling votes in Tuxedo to win the by-election, she was standing at Krispy Kreme waiting for donuts?
The Honourable Member for Roblin on a supplementary question.
Oh, I've been waiting for the opportunity to thoroughly denounce Wally Doddridge and most of his outrageous and offensive comments. He doesn't stand for me. Frankly, I don't give the man a second thought. Maybe the Premier should stop being so obsessed with Wally Doddridge and turn his attention to the very real homelessness problems we have in our city. He put forward what was supposed to be a 4-step plan that ultimately leads to the decommissioning of an encampment in 30 days. It's not happening. The Right to Housing Coalition told the media that, quote, the government needs to be more concerned about fleshing out its strategy. They also told the media that the NDP's approach, quote, seems to be more of a PR strategy. Why did the Premier bring forward such a rushed, half-baked and unrealistic plan on such an important issue?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe in taking a compassionate approach and meeting people where they're at in our communities. Your Way Home is a plan, a strategy that recognizes that we must work together to ensure that all Manitobans have access to dignified housing. I think it's really important for all Manitobans to reflect on the fact that for 2 terms of a failed PC administration, they did not only nothing to address the housing challenges, but they in fact took action to make it worse. On this side of the House, we're working on behalf of all Manitobans, and we're making sure that people have a warm place to call home.
The Honourable Member for Roblin on a final supplementary question.
In February, the executive director of the West Central Women's Resource Centre told media that the NDP's 30-day timeline target was, quote, not realistic. She also noted the NDP had not consulted with them prior to taking the plan to the media. St. Boniface Street Links also raised red flags, telling the media, quote, there hasn't been any real detail put to that plan, and if there has been, it hasn't been shared with us. It all seems very top-down. Despite relying on community organizations to do the heavy lifting, the Premier chose to bulldoze through them and push an unrealistic plan for the headlines, rather than addressing the urgent needs of vulnerable Manitobans. Why did the Premier fail to consult the organizations he expected to execute his plan?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
So, Honourable Speaker, let's just be very clear. The member opposite stands up and says she denounces one leadership candidate, but doesn't deny that she endorses the other, who thanks Donald Trump for tariffs. That's right. She stands with the leadership candidate who thanks Donald Trump for the very tax tariff measures that are going to make life less affordable and harder for Manitobans. So will she stand in her place today and denounce that leadership candidate who is actively supporting Donald Trump, who is actively hurting Manitobans and Canadians?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Midland.
Another unanswered question.
Honourable Speaker, it's tradition that the Premier answers the first 2 set of questions. Clearly, the Premier can't handle the questions from the MLA for Roblin today and pass it off to their deputy minister. This minister has brought forward a budget document that
Order.
lacks details. It has two deficit numbers with a $1.1 billion difference and next to no details on how that extra $1.1 billion will be spent. He announced only $200 million to be available to help businesses through this tariff war in close to $90 billion that supports the Manitoba economy. Terry Shaw from Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters has said he's concerned how quickly this money will run out in a trade war. Can the minister tell us what he will do when that $200 million runs out to help our Manitoba businesses and their employees through this economic crisis?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
So, Honourable Speaker, we know that the MLA for Roblin stands with Donald Trump. She's made it very clear that the leadership candidate on that side of the House that has thanked Donald Trump for tariffs is her candidate. Now, will the member opposite who just posed the question, will she denounce the leadership candidate that stands on the side of Donald Trump? We already know she supports Elon Musk. Now what we want to know is, does she support both Elon and Trump? On this side of the House, we've been very clear. We're investing in making Manitoba stronger. We stand with Manitobans, and we stand with all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Midland.
Honourable Speaker, this Deputy Premier is clearly off their game today because they very well know that I'm on the Leadership Committee and have to stay neutral throughout this process. This minister has overestimated revenues for this year with extremely wishful thinking. In addition to their rate of spending, his $1.9 billion deficit will likely grow by next year's public accounts. Yet he has not outlined when and how he plans to spend those additional $1 billion of deficit spending to help Manitoba businesses. So far, he's only committed $200 million, and businesses are saying that that is not enough. Will the minister commit now that 100% of those dollars will be available to business during these uncertain times?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
So let's be clear, Honourable Speaker. The member opposite has publicly stated that she supports Elon Musk, that she thinks it's wrong our government is making decisions to protect our economy, protect Manitoba jobs, and stand united as Canadians. I think she's making very clear whose side she's on, and it's not Team Manitoba, and it's not Team Canada. Our budget invests a historic $3.7 billion to build Manitoba. We are focused on one thing, that is making Manitoba stronger, protecting Manitobans from Donald Trump's tariffs, and making sure that we do our part in our province to bring Canadians together.
Great job, Minister.
The Honourable Member for Midland on a final supplementary question.
This NDP government still has yet to answer whether they will build those east to west pipelines in this country for energy independence. We are very concerned on this side of the House that this minister and his cabinet will be using his massive deficits as a slush fund, and that money will not go to supporting businesses during this time of need. He has provided next to no details in his budget documents. Will the minister provide a detailed cost breakdown of his $1 billion tariff contingency fund, including where exactly those dollars will be allocated?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, our Finance Minister brought forward a historic $3.7 billion build budget for Manitoba. Our Finance Minister has brought forward in 25-26 budget 25 ways for Manitobans to save. Our government is actively taking steps to not only protect jobs, strengthen our economy, but make sure that life is more affordable here in Manitoba. On that side of the House, they're thanking Donald Trump for tariffs. That member is defending and protecting the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. And on this side, we'll take no lessons from them because we're focused on one thing, making our province better for the future, making sure Manitobans know exactly what side we're on. That's Team Canada. On this side of the House,
time has expired. The Honourable Member for Brandon West.
Honourable Speaker, this Minister of Justice knew he misspoke earlier this week and has been hiding behind his cabinet colleagues since. When the family of Jordan Reimer told this minister that his bill doesn't go far enough, this minister shrugged it off and told them they were wrong. He stood in front of the cameras in this very building and asked the question that no one was thinking. Is this fair to drunk drivers who have killed people? Why is this minister putting criminals ahead of grieving families?
Wow.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Honourable Speaker, we're taking unprecedented action here in the province to move us to the forefront of legislation in Canada. A place that was once occupied by an NDP government here in Manitoba, but of course we've lost that place under the failed PC government over 7.5 years. They took no action to sanction impaired drivers, to take any action to strengthen our legislation. We are taking a different approach. We're listening to Mad Canada. We're listening to families of victims. We're meeting with Jordan Reimer's family and other victims of impaired driving because we want to get this right, and we're going to continue to strengthen our legislation around impaired driving every chance we get.
Yeah. That's right.
The honourable member for Brandon West on a supplementary question.
In October, the NDP spoke out a resolution calling for justice for Jordan, and the Minister of Transportation talked a big game at the time. And I quote from Hansard, "We need to strengthen penalties for people who do make that choice to get behind the wheel. We need to hold those people accountable for the bad decisions that they've made." And what kind of action does this minister take? Well, when push comes to shove, the minister chose against accountability and voted against the resolution. Reasonable amendment. She sat there, listened to the families, and chose the side of the criminals. I asked the Minister of Transportation, what changed since October of 2024?
Wow, yeah.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, once again, Honourable Speaker, we are listening to those advocates who have been asking. They were begging the previous government to take action on impaired driving, and of course they sat on their hands and they didn't take any action. We're going to do this differently, and in fact that's being recognized. Of course, Mad Canada explicitly supports our Bill 5, which was introduced, standing in with them in the rotunda of this very building, Honourable Speaker. What did they say? They said Manitoba is a leader in terms of policies and laws that focus on getting impaired drivers off the road before they injure or kill somebody. That's the kind of work that we're committed to. Honourable Speaker, I'm starting to wonder, because I thought the member opposite would do things differently, but it sounds like maybe he's taking the same
time has expired. The honourable member for Brandon West on a final supplementary question.
Karen Reimer did not mince her words for this minister. It's too bad that he refused to really engage with the family or ever answer their letter to his office. And I quote, "We really felt that after providing our input, we're not heard. It really became blatantly apparent that the NDP has already decided this is the bill. They're not listening to amendments." No. For a self-proclaimed listening government, their fingers seem to be planted squarely in their ears. To this Minister of Justice, he never answered Karen Reimer's question on Tuesday. So how about now? I quote, "I think it's ludicrous. Why are we giving people a second kick at the can to kill somebody?"
Oh. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Honourable Speaker, the grief that the Reimer family is experiencing is unfathomable for many of us, I think. But that doesn't mean that we cannot take whatever action we can, and this legislation proves that. We're going to be advancing this so that we are amongst the leaders in Canada once again. But honestly, Honourable Speaker, what I'm hearing from the members opposite is maybe they don't support this impaired driving legislation. Yeah. It sounds like maybe it's more of the same from the members opposite. Shame. So I'd like to ask, Honourable Speaker, does this member opposite, does he stand with the Wally Doddridge or the failed leadership candidate from Fort White?
Member's time has expired. Order, please. If I could get the clock stopped. There's some guests in the gallery that are leaving us shortly, so I want to take a moment to introduce them. We have in the public gallery 40 students from Norquay and Horton High Schools visiting us from Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia. We welcome you here today. Resuming oral questions, the Honourable Member for Lakeside.
Honourable Speaker, it's quite telling to see this Minister of Justice realize the scope of his power and authority after over 17 months on the job. He and his premier sold Manitobans quite a bill of goods, promising to reform the bail system single-handedly. The only thing this minister has accomplished is to preside over more catch and release than the average fishing derby. Is this because the minister thinks actual consequences are, in his own words, disproportionate for repeat offenders?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, Honourable Speaker, I thank the member for the question. It gives me an opportunity once again to point out the many steps that we are taking as a government when it comes to bail reform. Because unlike members opposite, we are eager to take action where we can in the province of Manitoba while holding the federal government to account. That means here in Manitoba, more resources for data sharing, more resources for law enforcement, specific officers who are doing this bail enforcement on our streets, and in fact, bringing back the electronic monitoring program that was cut under the previous government. There's lots of action we can take. That's why the National Police Federation supports our work. But we're going to continue to hold the Prime Minister to account. We're going to hold the federal government to account. And we're going to continue to make bail stronger here in Manitoba every single day.
Yeah. The Honourable Member for Lakeside.
Honourable Speaker, as my colleague for Brandon West raised, this minister's priorities are right backwards. When his staff harassed the family of Kelly Verway for a meeting, only after they came to this chamber to demand action. I suspect this minister didn't talk about how his biggest concern for justice is making sure that James Hilton would be able to drive again when he was released. Did the minister discuss his priorities at this meeting?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Once again, I want to thank the family of Kelly, the family, the community, many folks who took the time to come to this legislature to express how the tragic death of Kelly has impacted them and how we can use that as a guiding light to make a change and make difference here in this country. And to that end, our Premier promised the family that he would bring her example to the rest of the premiers across the country, to bring this example forward to the Prime Minister and to really ask for change and to show that leadership here from Manitoba. The Premier did that, and we're going to continue to work.
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Member for Lakeside on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, the facts don't agree with him on this, but that isn't new. Like how he talks a lot about the ankle monitoring program, but has never once mentioned the man who police only realized was not wearing his ankle monitor after he was arrested. The program is a failure. When will the minister introduce the real measures for reform that we all voted on earlier this month?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Honourable Speaker, this member is so out of touch, it is unbelievable. This member has no concept of the differentiation between what we can do in this province and what is a responsibility of the federal government. What I will say is that we are taking action, unlike members opposite, who for 7.5 years not only sat on their hands, which of course they did when it comes to bail reform, kick the political football down the field and say it's someone else's problem. We took a different approach. They not only did that, they cut programs like the ankle bracelet program. That was Heather Stephenson cutting that program as Minister of Justice. Every member opposite has to answer for that. This member opposite should take this seriously and should be listening to families and making real change in this country.
Member's time has expired. If I could get the clock stopped, please. I would remind all members that are virtual to please use the proper headset and mic when you're speaking or asking questions, because we cannot hear you. The Honourable Member for Portage La Prairie.
Honourable Speaker, I've received
Order, please. Before we proceed, keep the clock stopped, please. There's some guests that I'd like to introduce. We have in the public gallery from the Grand Lodge of Manitoba, Amat Bisharat, Ray Galopon, Glenn Ramos, Chris Goodmanson, Stuart Allen, Chibu Unson, John Manalang, Gord Greasley, Bruce Taylor, Jim Ferguson, Brian Real, John Hill, Al Franchuk, Fred Henricks, Melvin Arabe, Rico Villarin, Jose Caceres, Roland Tan, Romel Clamor, Don Paulus, Efren Cabira, Carlos Humer, Israel Kawanu, Aaron Badescu, Norman Paul Elag, Ryan Mato, Relay Amator, Clyde Bacala, Carlos Alt, Ed Barretts, David Lerner, Mike Howard, Al James Jamina, who are guests of the Honourable Minister of Labour and Immigration, the Honourable Member for Notre Dame. On behalf of all honourable members, we welcome you here today. The Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I've received calls from producers expressing serious concern about the inaction of this Agriculture Minister. These concerns are valid, yet they remain unanswered. One producer specifically raised questions about the upcoming federal election and the uncertainty that it brings. If the promised increased agri-stability doesn't go as planned, then what is this Minister of Agriculture's contingency plan?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the MLA for Portage for asking a very important question. In these challenging times for a number of us in the province of Manitoba and across Canada, our neighbours to the south have made things very challenging for agriculture producers, to be more specific. And it's no different whether it's in the hog sector or it's in the potato sector. We are at the mercy of probably April 2nd's announcement of the importance of the tariffs that will jeopardize the change of planning for agriculture producers. Being an agriculture producers, for myself for 40 some odd years, we set the blueprint of what we want to do in that particular year, but often Mother Nature makes things more challenging at first. We sometimes are not in control of what we have to do.
Member's time has expired. Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Agri-stability is directly tied to market conditions, and right now those conditions are a mess. Canola and pulse producers are struggling, with prices largely trending way downwards. If canola prices continue to decline, producers' payments will be based on those weak markets. Can the minister point to a specific item in this budget that addresses the market instability projections and mitigates the potential losses before the crop is even planted, or where the other markets might come from?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. I've been talking to producers, been talking to agriculture organizations across Manitoba, in fact, across Canada, and even into the States of challenges they will be facing as well. And I want to assure you, we're not alone. Manitoba's not alone in these challenges. That is why the federal minister put forward a proposal on the weekend, and this is a promising development. And to this work to do, I'm going to keep working with part of Team Canada and working for the benefit of producers that bring in nearly 9% of our GDP in the province of Manitoba with added value opportunities. We're going to build through the Agriculture Department and continue working.
Time has expired. The Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie.
Honourable Speaker, as the writ has been dropped, the minister cannot make any promises at this time. Business risk management programs are administered through MASC, yet this minister has cut the MASC budget. I table here today, should the minister need a reminder, what kind of message does this send to Manitoba producers who are already under immense stress? Farmers are facing uncertainty and lack leadership from this government. Honourable Speaker, It's time for this minister to stop ignoring realities on the ground and provide Manitobans with real concrete solutions. Will he
Member's
sign?
Time has expired. Order, please. Order, please. Order, please. Just before recognizing the Honourable Minister of Agriculture, I just remind all members that when they're referring to other members, to use their proper constituency names, not an abbreviated version of their constituency name. The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And obviously, you know, here's the critic standing up, criticizing of what we're not doing enough. Well, let me tell you, let's go back to 2018 and 2019 when potato producers were faced with back-to-back years of losses in the potato industry. And in fact, the agriculture minister was from Midland. And he chose not to put any financial support for those producers that were suffering in 2018. So it's quite ironic that the agriculture critic is picking and choosing certain things. Maybe he should do a bit of a history check on the government that he was sitting on or planning to sit on, and maybe get some actual facts of information.
Time has expired. Order. Order. The Honourable Member for Borderland.
Cyber attacks have become an increasingly common crime in Manitoba. We've seen them at our hospitals, our post-secondary institutions, and government services. Can the minister responsible advise how many cyber attacks took place last year against our institutions?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Innovation and New Technology.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank my colleague for the question, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to talk about the terrific work that my ministry is doing in relation to standing up additional supports to protect data, Manitoba's data from cyber attacks.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
Cyber attacks not only threaten people and institutions in the short term, but in the long term as well. Identity theft is often an after effect of a cyber attack. Regular monitoring of one's credit score and other online activities is the simplest action victims are encouraged to take to ensure that they are not re-victimized. What is the government's policy for providing monitoring services to affected staff, students, or any other individual, and is there even a policy?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation and New Technology.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Again, I thank my colleague for the question. I encourage him to perhaps begin, as he looks at asking questions in the future, to begin by asking all of the previous ministers of innovation and new technology the work that they did in advance of this to help protect Manitobans. Oh, wait, you can't, because there aren't any previous ministers of innovation and new technology.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
What specific public education initiatives is the minister pursuing this year to protect Manitobans' cybersecurity?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation and New Technology.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Again, it's always a delight to stand in the House and talk about the great work that's being done by my ministry, the work we're doing to strengthen both cybersecurity initiatives as well as to protect the data of Manitobans. And I look forward to sharing additional information about those programs in the days ahead.
The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. With respect to healthcare feedback, there have been 3 audits conducted over the last several years, and the findings show unsustainable deficits and a culture of dysfunction. This current government accuses the former government of creating the issues outlined in the audits. However, the president of MHCP shared with media that this government is not addressing issues fast enough and there needs to be more accountability and better planning and coordination. Does the minister believe that the healthcare of Manitobans is struggling further because issues are not being addressed fast enough?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Our government has been very clear and will continue to be very clear with Manitobans that our healthcare system is struggling the way that it is because of 2 terms, 7.5 years of a failed PC administration whose sole objective was to destroy the public healthcare system. Right. There are real consequences for that approach. They fired hundreds of nurses and healthcare workers, treated them with contempt and disrespect, closed major emergency rooms, and did nothing to address healthcare in rural and northern Manitoba. Our government is committed to fixing that damage, staffing the front lines, and improving care at the bedside for all Manitobans. I recognize that the changes that we're making perhaps are not happening as fast as even we would like, but we're committed to continuing to do that work for all Manitobans.
Right on. The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, according to recent media reports, a board member for Prairie Mountain Health resigned as he does not want to be part of what he is calling the blame game taking place by this NDP government. He shared how his decision to resign was because this government blamed the board of directors for overspending. However, the evidence demonstrates that the escalating costs are due to the use of private agency nurses. We are hearing feedback that this government is supporting more and more use of private health care. Will the minister share if this is accurate?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, 2 terms, 7.5 years of a failed PC administration's approach to health care takes time to address. It takes real time and sustained effort to repair that kind of damage. But our government's approach is seeing some really great progress being made. A net new 1,255 healthcare workers have joined the front lines of our healthcare system across Manitoba. We've added over 260 beds to the healthcare system. Budget 25-26 is going to see almost 100 more added. We're building healthcare infrastructure to improve care for Manitobans at the bedside. And members on that side of the House continue to try and shame our government for doing one of the most fundamentally important things to getting good work done, and that is listening to
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Member for Tyndall Park on a final supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, the Nurses Union President has stated this government is not considering patient care and is missing the bigger picture. She stated funding is lacking where it needs to be increased, and they have yet to see the increases with this government. More doctors, nurses, staff, and facilities are all desperately needed. Now, Manitobans did not expect this to happen overnight. However, it's now been 18 months since the government was elected. When can healthcare professionals expect to start seeing some tangible changes?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, in Budget 25-26, you can see that we are continuing to listen to the front lines and all Manitobans. Our budget sees a $1.2 billion investment in healthcare. That's a 14% increase to the healthcare Manitobans count on. $770 million of which is paying for the wages and remuneration of the healthcare experts we care for deeply and who care for Manitobans. Now, our government recognizes 2 terms of a failed PC government that didn't care about healthcare at the bedside, cared even less about healthcare workers, takes quite an effort to address and to fix. But our government, every single member on this side of the House, is committed to doing that work for Manitobans, and we are united to making sure that Manitoba has a stronger health care system.
Member's time has expired. The Honourable Member for Radisson.
Honourable Speaker, for too long, families in South Winnipeg have gone without emergency care in community because of the ill will of members opposite. When the failed PC government cut hundreds and hundreds of healthcare jobs, they signaled their indifference towards frontline families. When the previous government cut the Victoria Emergency Department, they signaled their indifference to South Winnipeg families. The PCs broke and dismantled Manitoba's healthcare system, Honourable Speaker. Cutting ERs was just one of the many steps that they took to do that. Can the Minister of Health update the House on our progress to build healthcare services for South Winnipeg?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, you've heard it before, but I'll say it again. With Budget 2025, we are going to build healthcare in Manitoba, and that includes the Victoria Emergency Department. On April 15th, we are hosting a consultation with frontline workers on the design of the Victoria ED, a notion that I'm sure members opposite find very offensive, listening to healthcare workers. Right. On May 6th, we're inviting community members to join myself and the Premier at a town hall as we put community's needs at the forefront. I encourage everyone to come out to this town hall and contribute to the future of care in your South Winnipeg community. On this side of the House, we're rebuilding healthcare and making sure that Manitobans and Canadians are united.
Outstanding. The Honourable Member for Midland.
Honourable Speaker, in Southern Health, more Manitobans than anywhere else are waiting for spaces in care homes. Unfortunately, this isn't a priority for the Minister. Beds are sitting unused in the brand new Boyne Lodge facility because this minister refuses to provide adequate supports to provide staff in those communities. When will this minister support Boyne Lodge and Carman with adequate staffing?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, our government recognizes that the care Manitobans receive depends on the folks who are there to provide care at the bedside, which is why we have ensured that in our first budget, we hired over 1,255 net new healthcare workers to the front lines. Here, here. And in our second budget brought forward by our highly competent and wonderful Minister of Finance, healthcare sees a $1.2 billion investment in healthcare, $770 million of which is for the frontline healthcare workers themselves. I would encourage that member opposite to ask her colleagues on that side of the House why they fired hundreds of healthcare workers and neglected rural Manitoba for 7.5 years. Here, here.
The Honourable Member for Midland on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, 24 PCH and 2 respite beds are waiting to be opened at Boyne Lodge under this minister's watch. This minister has yet to provide a plan to recruit staff to Carman. The town of Carman and Arm of Dufferin reached out months ago to this minister to request a meeting. As of this morning, they have yet to receive a response. Will this minister commit to a meeting with the town of Carman and Arm of Dufferin, and when can they expect this meeting to happen?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, the former failed PC government, that member should be well aware, closed hundreds of beds across Manitoba's personal care homes. In fact, they had a commitment to build 1,200 personal care home beds, and what was the result? A net loss of over 200 personal care home beds in Manitoba. Wow. Our government is doing the work of not only reopening those beds, but making sure they are adequately staffed. We have opened 40% of the personal care home beds that were closed under the former PC administration. That member would do better to ask members opposite on her side of the House why they spent 7.5 years not only ignoring rural Manitoba, but closing PCHs and firing healthcare workers.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Last week I asked a question of the Minister of Conservation regarding an important project put forward by the Conservation District in my constituency. It's regarding licensing an important water retention area in the Gardenton Community Pasture. Unfortunately, the letter was addressed to the Minister of Conservation, but the Minister of Environment stood up to give us an answer that wasn't an answer. The Conservation District is needing to start this project come spring, and I'm wondering if either one of the ministers has looked at this letter and addressed the concern.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I think it gives me great pleasure to be able to stand up and talk about projects that are existing in Manitoba. We had the opportunity with the Premier and the Minister of Business, Mining, Jobs and Training to be up in Lynn Lake to talk about the Alamos Gold Project. Significant contributions from Matthias Colomb, Marcel Colomb, Lynn Lake and the surrounding areas, and that's true investment in northern Manitoba. And know what else I heard while we were at the school, having a feast with the entire community? They talked about the great representation that they have from their NDP MLA up there. And you know what constituency that is? The constituency of Flin Flon.
Order. Order, please. I would request that members please leave the speaker out of their speaking comments and debate. It's a clearly well-known rule. Thank you. The honourable member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. That answer is very unfortunate. The Saint-Rat Conservation District has made tremendous steps forward in conservation in southeast Manitoba with many notable projects. They were able to do this under the previous PC government, but now a major project in the Gardenton Community Pastures is held up by the approval of his department, and now there's a new project that's been brought forward to help the zebra mussel concern in the St. Malo Lake, but the Conservation District is concerned, without hearing any answers from this minister, whether or not they can even apply for that project.
Right.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Features.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I'm not sure what to make of that question as he rambled through issue after issue after issue, which were totally ignored under the previous government. But I will ask that member to stand up in his place now and either show his support for the member from Fort White or Wally Dodgers, because we know they're totally divided on this issue. And the member from Fort White, who for some reason is in third place in a two-person race, which is just ridiculous to be able to begin with. But to top that off, Honourable Speaker, Wally Dodgers is not even first. You know who's in first in that race? None of the above.
The Honourable Member for Burroughs.
I think PC's ran out of questions, so I would ask one. Our government tabled an exciting forward-looking budget to build one Manitoba. While members opposite are busy fighting between themselves and dividing Manitobans, we are focused on building Manitoba.
Here, here.
With our new budget, we are going to build right across the province, including 11 new schools for communities in every corner of Manitoba. Can the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning tell us more about this historic investment and the great things these projects will do for our jobs and economy?
Amazing. The Honourable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Absolutely I can. Honourable Speaker, in this budget we are going to build. We are building emergency rooms, roads, bridges, channels, schools, and so much more. We are investing a record $3.7 billion in capital projects, and in the process we're creating 17,800 new jobs for Manitobans. Together, we are going to build 11 new schools for our kids in Brandon and Bridgewater, West St. Paul and Neepawa, St. Anne and St. Boniface. We are building right across the province. We know that no matter what threats are made across the border, no matter what threats are celebrated on the other side of the House, the best thing to do is build one Manitoba, and I'm very proud to say, Honourable Speaker, this budget does just that.
Order. The time for oral questions has expired. Order. Order. Petitions. Seeing no petitions, we will now. Is there a petition? Does a member from La Vérendrye have a petition? The member from La Vérendrye.
Honourable Speaker, I wish to present the following petition. To the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba, the background to this petition is as follows. 1. The provincial road 210, PR 210, is 117.3 kilometer, 72.8 mile highway in the Eastman region of Manitoba that connects the towns and communities of Woodridge, Marchand, La Broquerie, St. Anne, Landmark, Linden, Ile-des-Chênes, and St. Adolphe. 2, a significant portion of PR 210 also runs through the constituency of La Vérendrye. 3, PR 210 is a significant commuting route for Eastman families and is also notably used by those in the agriculture, tourism, and commerce industries. 4, the condition of PR 210 from Woodridge to Highway 12 is in an unacceptable state of disrepair. 5, the planned pavement upgrade was promised more than 20 years ago when it was constructed with a flat surface suitable for pavement, but is yet to be completed. 6, the condition of PR 210 from Woodridge to Highway 12 is in such bad shape that firefighters, police, and paramedic services are severely delayed when responding to emergencies. 7, the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, as well as the Premier, have a duty to respond to infrastructure needs identified by rural communities. We petition the Legislative Assembly of Manitoba as follows. 1, to urge the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure to prioritize the reconstruction of Provincial Road 210. And 2, to urge the provincial government to include the stretch of Provincial Road 210 from Woodridge to Highway 12 in its reconstruction plans. This petition has been signed by Andrew Jansen, Adam Bergman, Ariel Bernardin, and many, many other Manitobans.
Other petitions? Seeing none. Orders of the day. The Honourable Government House.
Nope.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
I would like to announce that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts will meet on Thursday, May 8th, 2025 at 7 p.m. to consider the Auditor General's report, oversight of post-secondary institutions dated October 2020, and the Auditor General's report, follow-up of previously issued recommendations dated February 2025, including oversight of post-secondary institutions.
It has been announced that the Standing Committee on Public Accounts will meet on Thursday, May 8th, 2025 at 7 p.m. to consider the Auditor General's report, oversight of post-secondary institutions dated October 2020, and Auditor General's report, follow-up of previously issued recommendations dated February 2025, oversight of post-secondary institutions. Now, as in accordance with our rules, the House will now resume debate on the budget motion moved by the Minister of Finance and amendments thereto. Standing in the name of the Honourable Member for Thompson, who has 13 minutes remaining. The Honourable Member for Thompson.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I would like to yield the rest of my time to give opportunity for my fellow colleagues to address this amazing budget, so thank you.
The Honourable Member for Roblin.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I am very pleased to rise today to put a few words on the record in support of the amendment put forward by my colleague, the MLA for Lac de Bonnie, because the NDP's budget, frankly,
At a time when Manitoba is on the brink of an economic storm, the likes of which it has never seen before, the NDP response is not only underwhelming, but frankly very troubling. This budget assumes the ability to raise an additional $1 billion in tax revenues on the backs of Manitobans. That includes $292 million more in individual income taxes, $154 million more in corporate income taxes, $178 million more in retail sales taxes, $182 million more in education property taxes, and $81 million more in other taxes, such as those generated through bracket creep, which is now back under the NDP. That totals $887 million more dollars in taxes out of the pockets of hardworking Manitobans, Honourable Speaker. But this is the reality that Manitobans are living in right now. They are in a cost of living crisis. We are in a trade war with China and on the cusp of a full-blown trade war with our largest trading partner. Economists are predicting a recession. Unemployment is up. Inflation in Manitoba is the highest in the country. For months, food inflation in Manitoba has been out of control. Small business confidence is at an all-time low, and more than half of Manitobans are just $200 or less away from being unable to pay their bills. Homeowners throughout Winnipeg are facing double-digit property tax hikes this year. In 2025, education taxes now represent over half of all property taxes collected in the city of Winnipeg. And it's in this climate that the NDP think they're going to reach even further into the pockets of Manitobans and raise nearly $1 billion more in additional taxes. It's simply not credible. They're banking on revenues that are by no means guaranteed in the current economic environment, where people are likely to be losing their jobs if these tariffs go through, and consumer confidence is likely to plummet along with small business confidence. The budget was so bad that a University of Winnipeg economist called the government's expectations unrealistic. He said, "Would you take this document to the bank and try to get a loan? I think it would be difficult." And he's not wrong. Multiple economists have since said that the government's assumptions with this budget are incorrect and naive and overly optimistic. And it really raises the question, Honourable Speaker, what is the government going to do when those revenues simply aren't there for them to collect? What are they going to cut? One of the more egregious things in this budget is that the NDP has announced they're no longer indexing tax brackets. This means that more Manitobans will be paying more taxes at higher rates. If you received a pay raise over the last year, it's generally worthless now because you'll have to hand over the rest of your raise or your cost of living adjustment to the NDP. It's going to hurt low-income Manitobans the most. Failing to index those tax brackets, particularly when inflation and food inflation is so high, is going to take a big bite out of low-income Manitobans' paychecks. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation called this move what it is, a punishing stealth tax hike. So now not only are the NDP actively making the affordability crisis worse, they're doing nothing to improve affordability. The scraps that are within this budget that they're marketing as affordability measures don't even take effect until next year. Meanwhile, Manitobans need affordability now. This is the same government that promised to crack down on grocers and fix grocery prices in Manitoba. And what have they done? Nothing. The NDP has enabled some of the highest food inflation in the country, far above the national average. The average family of 4 is expected to spend $800 more on groceries this year, according to the latest Canada Food Price Report. And the NDP offers zero help for Manitobans who are struggling to afford groceries today. They promised to bring grocery prices down, they failed, and now not only have they failed at that, food prices have gotten much, much worse under their watch.
The budget raises serious questions about the NDP's fiscal management. Debt servicing is now the third largest line item in this government's expenditures, and that's only going to get worse, Honourable Speaker. It's been said, and it's true, that the NDP are mortgaging Manitobans' future. Our children are going to end up paying the price for this NDP's spending problem in the future. They're growing Manitoba's net debt to over $36 billion this year. In just 18 months in office, they have added billions more to the provincial debt. The total liabilities and debt of the province has now reached $76 billion and growing every day. And when we talk about our children and our grandchildren paying the price for this, what's ultimately going to happen is they are going to leave this province. They are going to leave Manitoba because the tax burden is so high under this NDP government and because opportunities will disappear under this NDP government's watch. They will leave for greener pastures in other provinces, and the NDP is doing nothing to stop them. I want to talk a little bit about what wasn't in the budget. The most noticeable omission to me was any mention of an ER wait time strategy, which is something the NDP promised in their last throne speech, but it was very absent from this budget. Meanwhile, ER wait times continue to go up. Sadly, this can sometimes have tragic consequences. Just earlier this year in January, a man died in the HSC ER while waiting for care. We've seen no action since that man's death, despite promises to make that critical incident report public and to make improvements based on his experience in that ER. The NDP has done nothing. And there's nothing in this budget that's going to improve the situation either. There's nothing in this budget to expand diagnostic and surgical capacity for Manitobans. I hear daily from Manitobans who are waiting for an MRI, waiting for a surgery, waiting in pain. Sometimes, most troubling, I hear from Manitobans who are waiting for a life-saving surgery. People like Debbie Fuster of Niverville, who died waiting for heart surgery. People like John Funk, who thankfully are still with us, but have waited far too long for a surgery. He was told he needed his heart surgery within a week, and it's been 3 months. And until we brought this issue forward in question period and the media picked up on it, he still didn't have a surgery date. That's the kind of advocacy people have to do in this province to get the health care they need under the NDP. They've got to go to the opposition, they've got to get it on the floor of the legislature, or they have to get it in the media to get this health minister to act. That's shameful, Honourable Speaker. The NDP are spending over $1 billion extra in health care with no results. Manitobans do not oppose spending more on health care. We all agree health care is a line item that goes up every year under every government it has, and it will continue to do so. That's the nature of the beast. But Manitobans expect to see results for that spending. They expect to see wait times going down. They expect to be able to get into the ER. They expect an ambulance to be available when they need one. They expect to be able to access home care services if they need them. They expect to be able to get a bed in a personal care home. And despite billions of extra dollars being spent on health care, they're not getting those results. To be very clear, most of the additional spending in this year's budget is going to meet the NDP's existing contract obligations. Nothing in there is going to bring more healthcare workers into the system. And that's very troubling, Honourable Speaker. I have my doubts about the NDP's ability to meet its commitments in this budget. Last year, they didn't meet a single one of their own self-imposed deadlines or targets in last year's budget. For example, they promised to open new beds at the Grace Hospital by last March. Failed. They promised to open minor injury and illness clinics by the summer, and failed. They promised to hire 90 new paramedics last year, which was just outlandish. If every paramedic program in the province produced a full slate of graduates, it still wouldn't be enough to add 90 paramedics. So unsurprisingly, they fell well short of that target. At the last update provided by the Minister of Health, I think they'd hired 14 of the promised 90 paramedics from last year.
Yep.
So I guess they smartened up because there's no paramedic target in this year's budget. Because I think now they've seen, oh, we set targets, we fail to reach them. I found it troubling as well, the lack of focus on seniors in this budget. It's probably the largest growing demographic in our province right now. People are living longer and they need more services than ever before. And this generation of seniors, rightfully so, wants to be able to stay in their homes as long as possible. And what that requires is a robust home care system and alternate care options like supportive housing that enable seniors to live as independently as possible for as long as possible. That's what people are looking for. And there's nothing in this budget to do that. I have spoken with home care workers who have told me about a system in crisis under this NDP government, and there's nothing about community-based home care in this budget. There were a few other things missing from the budget that I found very troubling. In my constituency of Roblin, Phoenix School had an expansion and renovation project approved and underway when the NDP came into power. And in June 2024, St. James Assiniboia School Division, for whom this project has been a top priority for multiple years, received a notice from this NDP government that the project had been deferred indefinitely. So in the meantime, students are in portable classrooms. The school is full to bursting. And it's not just the spaces for students at the school that is a problem, because the project also included space for 74 childcare spaces. Childcare in my constituency and in constituencies across the province is a very serious problem. I hear weekly from my constituents from young parents who are incredibly stressed because they're due to go back to work within the coming weeks or months and they still haven't been able to secure childcare spaces. And then the NDP have a project that's underway, it's been approved, it's funded, and they just decide to yank it out and pull it out, and with that, 74 childcare spaces. And what that's going to mean for families in Headingley is that they may not have childcare as soon as next school year, because the daycare operator that's in that school right now has been told by the school division that they will only have space for the remainder of this school year, and that continuing to have space or any expansion of space is going to be impossible because of the pressing needs of the school. They need that space to teach students. This project was really important to the people of Headingley. It's too bad it's not important to the NDP government. There were some other items in the budget that are troubling as well, Honourable Speaker. In fact, there were some cuts to health care. There was no increase to nurse recruitment and retention initiatives, which, when you account for inflation, is a cut. There was, well, and there's no surprise here, no increase to out-of-province care coverage funding, which, when you account for inflation, again, is a cut. At a time when more and more people can't access the surgery they need here at home in a timely manner, the NDP have slammed the door on any option for getting that care anywhere else, on purely ideological grounds. It makes no sense at all, and it's not common sense, and it doesn't put patients first. It puts the NDP's ideology first. There was no increase to the Health System Innovation Fund. That's also a cut when you account for inflation. And no increase to the seniors and long-term care budget. That's also a cut when you account for inflation. So we've seen where the NDP's priorities are, not where Manitobans' priorities are. Affordability is getting worse, food inflation has gone up, and small business I want to talk about small businesses a little bit, because small businesses make up, I think, 90% of employers in Manitoba. 90% of employers in Manitoba are small businesses, and they get nothing but lip service and recognition days from this government. The NDP's government track record in just 18 months of government shows that they think very little of small businesses in Manitoba. The CFIB's Business Barometer, just recently published, shows that small business optimism has plummeted to an all-time low, a lower mark than during the pandemic, the 2008 financial crisis, or in the wake of 9/11. That's happening right now under this NDP government. Under the NDP, unemployment has risen to over 6%. U.S. exports have declined over 6% in 2024, and that's before tariffs. China exports declined 11% before tariffs. Business bankruptcies have increased 23%. Consumer insolvencies by almost 5%. These are really troubling statistics. And part of the reason that small business confidence is so low is because of what they've seen from this government. It's little things and big things, Honourable Speaker. It's things like removing the PST remittance allowance that was given to small businesses. Now they just expect small businesses to collect those taxes on behalf of the government for free. It's things like gutting the province's red tape legislation in Manitoba. Signaling to small businesses that regulation and red tape and bureaucracy will become out of control under this government. Manitoba was a leader in red tape reduction across the country, consistently receiving top marks in the country. And where are they this year? An F, at the bottom, because the NDP have signaled their unwillingness to even consider the very real costs of regulation to small business. It's not just a theoretical concept. It's a very real problem for small businesses with a dollar figure attached to it. So that's very disappointing, Honourable Speaker. The only positive thing in the NDP's budget was a commitment to lower the breast cancer screening age to age 40. And I want to talk about that for a moment, because while I'm optimistic, I'll believe it when I see it. The NDP have shown an alarming propensity for announcing things, but not doing the work to actually get them done. And while we're talking about that issue, the credit for that goes to the advocates across Manitoba who have been pushing for this since new guidelines came out last year that only upheld the status quo. And if it were up to the NDP, they would have followed those guidelines and upheld the status quo. But it's because of those advocates who pushed this issue that the NDP is now forced to finally align Manitoba with other provinces and lower the breast cancer screening age. But that's going to require hiring more technicians to do mammograms for women across Manitoba. And the NDP need to act now, because first they said they'd lower it to 45 by the end of this year. We're already through the first 3 months of 2025, so there's a long way to go. I sincerely hope that the NDP are serious in this commitment and that we will see them lower the breast cancer screening age. I'm not as optimistic as I would like to be, because I introduced a bill earlier this spring, again reintroducing a bill that would have mandated the lowering of that screening age, and the NDP stalled it, which tells me that they're not super serious about it. But they know they have to say something because the pressure is so great and because Manitoba's falling so far behind. You'd think if they were serious about it, they would have agreed to move the bill forward to committee and to allow all of those advocates who are so passionate about this issue to come to the legislature and have their say about an issue that's so important to them. But the NDP didn't allow them to do that. I see that I'm running out of time, Honourable Speaker, so I just want to speak very briefly about an issue that's incredibly important in this economic climate, and that's interprovincial trade barriers. This is the time when we're facing a significant and very real economic threat from Donald Trump. This is the time to knock down remaining interprovincial trade barriers. We're seeing other provinces move in that direction swiftly, and the NDP are dragging their feet. There's nothing tangible in this budget. Manitoba needs a more aggressive approach like Nova Scotia's. Nova Scotia's actually introduced legislation that will enable this. Other premiers are showing leadership on trade, but what we see from our premier is troubling. We see him mocking, we see him joking around about it, he thinks it's quite funny, but we don't see him taking tangible action to remove interprovincial trade barriers, which would actually improve business confidence in Manitoba if he took tangible steps to do that. And depending on the page of the budget, you get a different policy from this NDP. On one page, they're criticizing labor mobility as a threat to Manitoba jobs. On the next page, they're saying we need to improve labor mobility to improve interprovincial trade. So which is it, Honourable Speaker? I don't know, and I don't think Manitobans know either. They need a clear response to this very real threat from the NDP. It's just too bad that this budget didn't deliver it. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Burrows.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's an honor to rise today to talk about Manitoba's Building One Manitoba Budget 2025. It's a great news for Manitobans that we are taking forward steps to build Manitoba. And when I look at the budget document, I see positivity there. I see positive vibes there. I see the words like build, grow, fix, develop, hire, invest, lift up, affordability, tax credit, gold mine, and so on. And I also see the word nello, which is a great positive word in this document. So I want to thank my wonderful team for bringing this document up for Manitobans and creating that positivity for the growth of our province. A lot has been said about what's in the budget. Our team and the members opposite, they've been debating this document for a few days now. What I want to share is, in addition to what's in the budget document, how I feel about it. How I feel about it. Honorable Speaker, I feel great, and I feel wonderful, and I feel proud about this document. I actually want to sing to celebrate this document, but unfortunately, singing is not allowed in this chamber. I'm no Karan Aujla either, so I won't sing. I am a brown man. But let me say this, Honorable Speaker, they're not like us. There is a lot in this budget that makes Manitobans happy, Manitobans including members opposite. I want to actually thank the finance critic for appreciating our budget on CBC Morning Show. And I also want to thank health critic who just a few minutes back appreciated the contents of our budget. So it's making everybody smile. It's making everybody happy. When we talk about healthcare, there is a lot about healthcare in this budget. We are building 2 new ERs. New ER and mature women's clinic at Victoria Hospital and Ericsdale ER. For the people of Interlake, that's a good news in Ericsdale. I'm connected to Interlake because I worked there and I visited Ericsdale and met many people from Ericsdale during my time at Manitoba Agriculture. And we continue to staff up the healthcare system. For our last budget, we had committed 1,000 new health professionals in the department. We met the target and we exceeded it. We ended up hiring over 1,200 workers so far, which is a good news for Manitoba. And we're also adding more surgeries and diagnostic tests in Manitoba. We're also building more personal care homes, and one at Transcona, another at Lac Dubonnet, and the third in Oreburgh. And this budget and our team is fully focused on training more workers in the healthcare sector, retention with respect and fair wages, and rebuilding healthcare. I want to say thank you to the wonderful Minister of Health. When we talk about affordability, affordability is an issue, and we are working on it. And let me remind all Manitobans Why we are building? Why we are fixing? Because the systems were broken. Systems were broken. We have to clean up the mess, and we have to rebuild those systems and rebuild our province again. So this is an opportunity for me and my team to thank all Manitobans for trusting in us and offering this sacred responsibility to this team who is fully capable of leading, fully capable of building our province again. Talking about affordability, we are freezing hydro rates. That helps regular Manitobans. And we are strengthening EIA support by removing barriers. And we are doing a great on other various fronts that help us on affordability. We are supporting Manitobans and businesses on home and business security rebate program, which continues as it was. And we have a new bill to break up big grocery monopolies. We need to bring in competition and encourage small businesses to thrive with the support of the government and with the support of all Manitobans. $10 a day daycare expanded to non-school days. Parents had to pay for the daycare fully during the days when it was not a school day. But we are doing something different here to help people on affordability. EV rebate program continues, but no more Teslas. When we talk about parks, it reminds me of the contract that the PC government had with a company from Texas. We ended that contract, and now Manitobans can enter in our parks for free. When I think about education, I think about Brother Nello, and I think about the great steps he and our team took to make our education system better, to make our daycares better, to make our schools better. We would be building 11 new schools in Manitoba. And let me remind Manitobans that the government who came before us, they just announced schools without budgeting it. So you need to know that. You need to know that we have announced a few schools and we have them budgeted, and we would be building 11 new schools, not just in Winnipeg, but all over Manitoba. I want to give shout out to our Minister for BMTJC. This is a long name. The Minister for Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation. I'm so proud of our minister here because, like the rest of the team, he talks about creation. He creates jobs. On the flip side, a few days back, I saw a PMR from the members opposite that talks about job destruction. Why are we talking about job destruction in this chamber? This is a sacred space provided to us to work together, to build something, to create something. So thank you, Minister for Business, Mining, Trade, and Job Creation, for doing the great work for our province. And thank you for the gold mine. Thank you for the gold mine. That was a great announcement. And I met a few people, a few Manitobans, discussing about that development in our province and appreciating our government's leadership on that, because it would be creating so many jobs, permanent, full-time jobs, not for a year, not for 2 years, for decades. And during the construction phase, we would have so many jobs in construction due to that announcement. So thank you, Minister, for that. And also, thank you for breaking the inter-provincial trade barriers. That's next on your list, and I'm sure you're working together with other provinces, and you are on Team Canada, Team Manitoba to make things better in the business world. Minister for Public Service Delivery. We are standing up against monopoly from big grocers, and we are creating opportunities for small businesses to thrive and to establish themselves. There are so many small businesses in boroughs and around that I got to visit, that I got to be part of the inauguration and so on. They are so happy. Before I forget, I want to give shout out to early childhood educators in boroughs and beyond. And I want to mention here the great team. I want to give this shout out to Erin and Charanjit Penji at Huron Child Care Center. You are doing great and you are growing. Thank you so much for your work for Manitoba, for your service to the families in boroughs. I have 2 branches of OK before and after school child care centers. Thank you so much to your team for what you're doing for Manitoba. Shepherd's Care and Day Nursery is a great one. My son, Jasing, used to go there, and he has some memories there. Thank you, Mrs. Bass, for your leadership, and thank you, Lydia, for decades of work at that center to serve Manitoban families. And another one is Sedok Veselka Daycare. Yakuyu to you all. You are doing great, my friends. Thank you so much, and keep the great work up. When I think about small businesses, I think about regular Manitobans who are making a difference. I want to mention here, there is one of my constituents. His name is Kuya Soni Cortez. He grows plants in his backyard. When you go to his home, it looks like a garden. You would see small polythene houses, and he participates in Upo Festival. That's a great festival that every year happens in boroughs, and people bring their produce called Upo, long melons, and then people participate in that competition. Thank you, Kuya Soni, for doing that. I appreciate you. Manitobans are like you who are building Manitoba along with the great leadership that my team offers. Another great success story that I want to mention here is Motherland Farms. You would see a turbaned man on his minivan bringing vegetables to the city. He would be stopping at various locations in parking lots, at gurdwaras, beside restaurants, and people have his phone number. They order, they show up, and they purchase that wonderful fresh produce from that turbaned man who is a farmer. And I'm pretty sure that he is only one, or there are only a couple of turbaned farmers in Manitoba. So thank you, brother, for what you're doing. And I want to appreciate a few other businesses. I want to appreciate a few farmers markets that bring fresh produce to Manitobans. For example, St. Norbert's Farmers Market, Arness Farmers Market, Arberg Farmers Market, Beausejour Farmers Market. And I got a chance to go to Direct Farm Manitoba's conference the other day. Met a wonderful folks there, especially Phil, the honey guy. I said, "Hey Phil, you're so sweet." He was like, because I deal with honey and I always wear yellow. So good folks like that, they are doing great. And once I got a chance, why I'm mentioning these businesses is because these small businesses matter, Honorable Speaker. The other day, I went to Kelowna River East, and I stopped at Mountain Bean Coffee. What a wonderful space on Henderson. I don't know, many of you might have stopped there. It's a wonderful, wonderful space, great furniture, good people, good service, and very good coffee as well. I have a few more things to mention here that make me proud of who I am and who I work with. I'm proud of Manitoba, I'm proud of Team Canada, and I am proud of the leadership that I am part of. And the leadership that has political will. I bold and underline, this leadership has the political will to bring a positive change. What we had for 7.5 years, we had a political Jack, then we had a political Jill, then we had a political Blaine, and then we had a political Bill. But we have political will. That's what's required to build Manitoba. We are building it together, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie.
Honourable Speaker, on a point of order. On House business, sorry.
The Honourable Member for Portage-La Prairie.
On the the documents that I spoke of this morning. Documents from this morning.
The Honourable Member for Morden Winkler.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm here to address the significant concerns surrounding the current NDP government's 2025 budget. I'm happy to rise today to discuss the current budget the NDP that they have brought forward. I know that speaking today is an honor for me as I'm representing my constituents of Morden Winkler and every Manitoban across our beautiful province. I don't take this elected official position lightly. I've had the opportunity to speak to my constituents as well as other Manitobans about the current budget announced by the NDP government. It is all of our responsibility here as elected officials to represent each Manitoban across our beautiful province, from urban cities like Winnipeg to communities in rural Manitoba. As we speak on the 2025 budget, the current Manitoba government faces a tremendous responsibility, and I'm here to hold them accountable for what they're doing in the province of Manitoba. The decisions made in this budget will shape the future of our province for years to come. It is not just about balancing numbers. It's about balancing the needs of every Manitoban, ensuring that hard-working families, seniors, businesses, and manufacturers are supported while also planning for a sustainable and prosperous future. I'm very concerned about what this budget will do to increase the debt of our province. What is this NDP government leaving for our children and grandchildren? We must plan for generations to come. The NDP government is mortgaging Manitoba's future, and this is not something we need to take lightly. This government has the opportunity to invest in critical areas like healthcare, education, and infrastructure, while also addressing the cost of living pressures that so many are facing. It's essential that the budget reflects the priorities of people and ensures that Manitoba remains a place where people want to live, work, and raise their families, rather than having them leave to other places or provinces that are more affordable. The choices made now will determine the strength of our economy, the quality of our public services, and the opportunities available to future generations. The government has failed to do this in this budget. This is a time for thoughtful, responsible leadership. The government must be accountable. make wise investments, and avoid burdening the people with unnecessary taxes. The weight of this responsibility is great. It is crucial that the government makes the right decisions for the well-being of all Manitobans. But in this budget, the current government has failed to do this. The budget is a critical tool for shaping the province's future. The current NDP government has failed to meet the needs of many people represented in our province. One of the most glaring issues is the government's lack of focus on affordability for the average citizen, for people across the province of Manitoba, in every community, in every city. In a time when many families are struggling with rising costs of housing, groceries, essential services, the NDP's budget proposals have done little to ease the financial burden on these families. Rather than introducing substantial tax cuts or financial relief measures, the government has chosen to focus on initiatives that benefit a very select few, while ordinary citizens continue to grapple with the increased living costs. For example, despite promises to tackle the housing crisis, there is little in the budget that meaningfully addresses the issue of affordability. Being able to buy that home, helping people and our young people to buy a home. The proposed housing initiatives simply don't do enough to reduce rents or provide accessible homeownership options. Let's talk about healthcare, which is a top priority for many Manitobans, most Manitobans, as my colleague from Robwin mentioned. The NDP's handling of healthcare funding has been disappointing. While they continue to claim that healthcare is a priority, the budget does not reflect the urgent need to tackle long wait times, improve patient care, or adequately fund our healthcare professionals. Healthcare remains underfunded in critical areas, and the proposed changes are simply inadequate to meet the growing demand for services. For example, first responders. There's such a shortage right now with first responders, specifically in Winnipeg, that they're working overtime and are exhausted and having to leave for mental health breaks. We must do more to help support first responders and give them support and help more positions being filled in that area. It's dire. We must also discuss how the NDP government has continued to increase taxes and fees in this budget, further burdening businesses and individuals already struggling to make ends meet. This is one of the things that I've heard the most talking to my constituents in Morden-Winkler and also others in the province of Manitoba. They don't understand how the taxes can continue to grow and grow, from property taxes to all the different taxes that they're paying. They're overwhelmed and they need a break. This approach stifles economic growth, the overtaxation of our people, of our communities, and of our province, making it difficult for business to invest, expand, or create jobs. Instead of incentivizing entrepreneurship and growth, the NDP approaches create an environment of stagnation. Why would somebody want to grow their business when they have to pay higher payroll taxes if they employ more employees? Businesses will choose to not grow rather than having to pay extra costs when it comes to payroll taxes. We need to do more to support our businesses in our province. The 2025 budget is a missed opportunity. It lacks the vision, accountability, and focus on affordability that this province desperately needs. If this government wants to prove it's truly working for the people, they must do better. They must cut taxes, focus on affordability, and make real changes to the way the government operates. Until then, It is clear that the NDP government have failed to deliver a budget that meets the needs of the people that was elected to serve. Another reason I'm disappointed is the aspect of not enough was done for industry and businesses in our current budget. With difficult times, many manufacturers and small businesses and industry leaders in Manitoba are struggling to know what direction to go and what kind of support they need, they have in regards to tariffs and the volatile industry and business environment. Manitoba's farming industry, businesses, manufacturing sectors are facing unprecedented challenges due to the tariffs imposed by the United States. These tariffs are placing significant pressures on local businesses and industries in my constituency of Morden-Winkler, making it harder for them to compete in the global market with increased costs for raw materials and equipment and exports. Manitoba manufacturers are struggling to maintain their profit margins and keep prices competitive. Agriculture farms may be forced to close or sell because they don't have a market to sell to. What are we doing? We need to act for our agriculture. We need to act for our industry and our manufacturers that have a large market in the United States. We need to make sure that we are helping them to give them tools and helping them to weather this storm that we're in right now. These tariffs are also impacting a broader economy, leading to job insecurity and uncertainty for workers in these vital sectors. Many businesses are forced to scale back production, delay investments, or even consider relocating operations elsewhere. The consequence of these tariffs go beyond just the balancing sheet. They're affecting the livelihoods and local communities and families all over Manitoba. This is why it's so important for us to address interprovincial trading. We must do everything we can to foster a healthy environment and come up with solutions urgently as soon as possible. For Manitoba to thrive, it's essential that we find ways to address these challenges, whether through stronger trade negotiations, diversifying markets, such as interprovincial trading, providing support to affected industries. It's crucial that the government acts swiftly to protect our future of our businesses and workers from the damage impact of these tariffs. The NDP government has done very little during this critical time, and the little they are doing is not enough. As we examine the current Manitoba budget, it becomes clear that rural communities are being overlooked when it comes to critical infrastructure needs, particularly in areas like wastewater management and road maintenance. These are foundational issues that, if left unaddressed, will continue to hinder the growth and prosperity of Manitoba. Rural areas, outdated and inadequate water systems, wastewater systems, are a growing concern. Many communities still relying on aging infrastructure, which not only poses serious health and environmental risks, but it also limits the availability to support population growth and attract new businesses. The lack of investment in wastewater treatment and management is putting rural residents at a disadvantage. This current budget, however, does not allocate significant resources to tackle these pressing infrastructure needs. Without proper wastewater systems, rural communities such as Morden will continue to face increased costs as costs go up, environmental challenges, and healthcare concerns. Equally concerning is the state of our roads. Manitoba roads are a lifeline that connects small towns, farmers, and businesses to the rest of the province, yet many are in desperate need of repair and modernization. The current budget fails to provide the necessary funding for substantial road upgrades, leaving many rural areas with deteriorating infrastructure that affects local economies and quality of life. Poor road conditions not only make transportation difficult, but also impact the delivery of goods and services, adding costs and delays to businesses and families alike, making it difficult also for people to travel to larger centers for healthcare. Rural Manitobans contribute significantly to the province's economy, particularly agriculture and resource-based industries, and yet they continue to face a burden of neglect of infrastructure investment. I will say my constituency of Morden Winkler, I believe, is the economic hub of our province of Manitoba. And I'd like to know how much is coming out of our area to the province funds-wise, and what comes back, because we need to make sure that we keep things even, or we need to make sure we don't forget about those that are actually funding all the programs and all the things that are happening. We also need to make sure that they get what they need as well in our area. For rural communities to thrive, it is essential that the government prioritize investments like wastewater and roads to ensure communities are equipped with the infrastructure they need to succeed and to continually be the economic hub for the province of Manitoba. We must continually invest so that it can grow, so that we can continually have those investments return on their investment. The government must recognize the importance of investing in these critical areas. It's so important. Without addressing infrastructure gaps, rural Manitoba will continue to fall behind, and the people who live there will face unnecessary challenges. Mental health is also not given a priority in this budget. The budget fails to adequately address the growing need for mental health supports across Manitoba. As we face increased mental health issues, particularly in the wake of a pandemic, and now all the uncertainty with tariffs from the United States, many Manitobans are struggling to receive access to care that they need. We need to do better. We have invested almost very little into mental health, and it's so important for us to not forget that this is what we need to invest in right now for those that we love around us. The current budget offers limited funding for mental health services, leaving individuals without support, resources required to manage their mental health effectively. Wait times for mental health services are already too long, and many people simply can't get the help they need in a timely manner. This lack of investment not only affects individuals' well-being, but also places a heavy burden on our healthcare system as a whole. Whether it's anxiety, depression, or other serious mental health conditions, people deserve timely and access to care. And this budget needs to be, we need to make sure that our budgets reflect this priority. Another huge disappointment in this budget is the lack of attention to addictions treatment and recovery. One of the most pressing issues not adequately addressed in the budget 2025 is the severe lack of funding for addiction services and treatment beds. I didn't see I was very disappointed to see that is such a low priority of the government. Addiction continues to devastate families and communities across our province, yet the current government offers insufficient resources to tackle this crisis. The demand for addiction treatment services is growing, but many individuals are left waiting for months to receive care they desperately need. And at that point, they don't even want care anymore. Or support and treatment. When they come for support and treatment, we need to have it available at that moment. The shortage of treatment beds further exacerbates the problem, force people to either go without help, or prolonged periods of uncertainty. Without immediate increased investment in addiction treatment, the cycle of suffering will continue. For Manitoba to move forward, we must prioritize health and well-being for those struggling with addictions. We need to give them an opportunity for success in their life. We need to not put them in a place of a holding pattern or a place of suspension in their drug addiction, which I believe will happen if there is to be an injection site opening up. We need to give hope, we need to give recovery, and we need to make sure people have the option to have or be able to get help to have a successful life. That should be our #1 priority. In order for us to Manitoba to move forward, we must prioritize recovery for addictions. Government has a responsibility to do that for those people that need that treatment. We need to make sure we have treatment beds available. This is a big shortfall and an issue that we need to address. It's critical. Talking to a stakeholder, they were saying that a lot of the crime that's happening is a result of people who are in addiction. We take care of the people that are having addiction, and we can actually help them and have them have a successful life, and also create safer spaces, because those people are no longer needing to do things that they would never normally do, and taking care of both safety needs and giving people hope in a future. Another thing we need to talk about is the government has failed to properly invest in frontline workers who are battling crises every day in and out. Addiction services, mental health care is more important than everything to these frontline workers, nurses, counselors, and support workers, and paramedics, first responders. They're being left behind. We need to make sure that we take care of them, and we need to make sure we get them support and help. We need to make sure that they're not having to work overtime and constantly trying to cover and make up for when they don't have enough support. I know currently, right now, that there's several positions open or people waiting for positions in paramedic positions, and they're not getting called in, and I don't understand why the government isn't filling those positions. We need to act on this. It's a crisis right now. I want to speak for another minute or 30 seconds here about my community. I just want to say thank you for trusting me to be your MLA or to represent you. And I will fight and advocate for my province and for my community where it comes to taxes, exporting, importing, manufacturing, small business, and my community for healthcare. I just really find it's such an important, and I'm honored to be able to speak today. Thank you.
The honourable member for Radisson.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Wow. Thank you. Thank you to my colleagues. I know that we've got an incredible team of folks around the caucus table, and I'm just so honored to be one of them. Okay. So, Honourable Speaker, I would like to begin by taking a moment of gratitude for the people that I serve. Taking a moment of gratitude for the people that I serve, the great residents of the great constituency of Radisson. In community, I often say that our constituency is a strong depiction of the many challenges that we face together as a whole province. We have budding developments that house new families and seniors who've lived good lives building our province. We have healthcare workers and educators who've been in our community for decades, and we also have students training to join their workforce. We have steel workers whose labor powers our railways, and we have veterans who have powered our defense. We have a large commercial district, and we have one of the largest, if not the largest, urban bioreserve in the province. We are a strong depiction of our province's challenges because we're a strong depiction of its strengths. With that, I am grateful to my constituents for being willing and enthusiastic partners in our legislative work. I'm grateful for every email, phone call, social media message sent our way with the interest of our shared community at heart. It's your voice that has informed how we move forward, both as a government and as a local community. For your faith and participation, I'm forever indebted. As difficult as these times are, on the tail of an unprecedented pandemic, we can say with hope that for the first time in a long time, the times that we're living through are precedented. We've seen a U.S. trade war before, Honourable Speaker. We've seen this U.S. president before, Honourable Speaker. And we have demonstrated how willing we are to defend this country that we all love so dearly before. The moment we're living in is terrifying for my generation and for many others. It requires an immense amount of forward thinking and political courage. Honourable Speaker, that's why I am so proud to be speaking to you today about Budget 2025, a plan for Manitoba that meets this moment. The budget contains a record investment in strategic capital projects to build a resilient Manitoba, create good, well-paying jobs for Manitobans, and strengthen our economy in the face of tariffs from the United States administration. I want to thank our Finance Minister, the Premier, Cabinet, Treasury Board, our incredible team of MLAs, and the many staff that commit their time and energy to develop this bold strategy, which will allow us to build one Manitoba and prepare a contingency plan in the event of sustained tariffs. We're bringing long-awaited, much-needed investments to the communities of Radisson and Transcona within just the first half of our mandate. To my constituents, it's an honor to advocate for these issues on your behalf from our caucus table. I share your personal experiences. That's why I am sincerely proud that we will be building a new school right in the heart of Radisson in Devonshire Park. The new school Honorable Speaker, when I first moved into Harbourview South with my family, we chose that spot because we were told that there'd be a school in our backyard. We chose that spot because we thought that me and my brother would be able to walk down the street in our community and go to school. Instead, we were forced to commute 30 to 40 minutes to the school that we ended up at, and that was, far too long when we could have been sitting around the family dinner table, debriefing on our days, sharing all of the stories of excitement. Meanwhile, the previous government dragged their feet for 7.5 years until it came election time. Our government knows that our community has waited far too long. That's why this budget includes not just the new school in Devonshire Park, but 11 new schools that our government is also funding. The new Devonshire Park School will reduce class size pressures across RETSD and will bring a great number of childcare spaces to the community. This new school supports young families and students who choose to call Radisson home, similar to how my family chose to call Radisson home way back when. Our government is also looking out for seniors who spent their lives living and working in Transcona and frankly don't want to leave. The former PC government stood in front of Park Manor Home and promised more PCH beds. But their actions are louder than their words, Honourable Speaker. And not only did the former government fail to build new PCH beds, but the result of their actions was a net loss of beds across the system. Personal care homes and our healthcare system lost beds, Honourable Speaker. They lost beds because they fired nurses and they hollowed out our system completely. So our government is funding a long overdue expansion to Park Manor, Honourable Speaker, which will bring 90 new personal care home beds to Transcona. Honourable Speaker, we're bringing 90 new personal care home beds to Transcona because we believe that seniors deserve to age with dignity in the communities that they love and that they helped build. Park Manor, you've been waiting too long. You've been through too much with the previous government, and that's why we're getting shovels in the ground this year. Including the expansion of Park Manor, our 2025 budget has funding for 3 new personal care homes across Manitoba. We're also investing $40 million to provide more direct hours of care for seniors. Despite attempts by the opposition to block legislation, Honourable Speaker, we are establishing the Independent Seniors Advocate Office that community advocates have been requesting for decades and members opposite denied. Even better, Honourable Speaker, we're starting that hiring process tonight at committee. Honourable Speaker, elder Manitobans have built our province, and I'm really grateful that we have the chance to build one Manitoba for them. Honourable Speaker, Budget 2025 is focused on putting Manitobans to work. But one Manitoba with thousands and thousands of new jobs requires extra support at home for children and ensuring that they are set up for success. We're creating 4,600 childcare spaces over the next 2 years, including spaces for healthcare workers in Winnipeg and Brandon. with the goal to open 23,000 new spaces. We're also expanding $10 a day childcare to cover non-school days, saving families nearly $3,000 annually. Education is essential for the success of our children and for our province. Budget 2025 includes more than $700 million over the next 5 years to build 11 new schools across Manitoba, as I stated earlier, including the new school in Devonshire Park. We've added $30 million in permanent funding for Nello's Law, the Universal School Nutrition Program. And our new school funding model will exceed the rate of inflation to help schools catch up after years of cuts. Honorable Speaker, now this one is close to home for me and for many. As part of our historic investments in Manitoba's healthcare system, Budget 2025 includes $7 million to design and renovate the Children's ER. History sets a precedent of young people in every generation who step up to face challenges and hardships, who put in the work to build a better future for those who come next. We fought our wars, Honorable Speaker. We fielded our pandemics, Honorable Speaker. And today we are ready to take on the economic crisis brought upon us by the U.S. President Donald Trump. Young people across Manitoba, across Canada, and across the world are calling for justice, fairness, and equity. We're advocating, marching, and shouting at the tops of our lungs for governments and policymakers to take meaningful action to address climate change, economic uncertainty, and social issues. Honorable Speaker, just a few months ago in this House, I stood and requested kindly that our chamber and chambers across Canada put young people to work. And Budget 2025 is something that does just that. Our historic capital investments in Manitoba's infrastructure, industry, and healthcare system will create good jobs for Manitobans in skilled trades and open new pathways for young Manitobans looking to pursue a career in healthcare. We're setting young Manitobans up for success in our growing economy with more training seats than ever before, increased financial aid for post-secondary students, increased funding for apprenticeship training equipment grants, and restoring one-to-one apprenticeship ratios. We are investing in our young workers because our government understands that they are eager and willing to take up the torch passed on through generations to overcome challenges and to build a better future in one Manitoba together. Honorable Speaker, before I move on to the next piece of my remarks here, I have to put on the record just an experience that I had when I was advocating for post-secondary students across Manitoba. As many folks in this chamber know, I am the former president of the University of Manitoba Students' Union, and amid COVID, we formed the Manitoba Alliance of Post-Secondary Students. And sitting opposite to cabinet ministers at the time under the previous government, students who wanted to be put to work, students who came from other countries to be put to work, were referred to me as sugar daddies.
Shame.
They were referred to me as sugar daddies. They referred to their system or whatever they were developing at the time to access student grants and funding as student grant Tinder, Honorable Speaker. That was the reality that student advocates who were amplifying the voice of their members at the time, that's what we were facing on the other side or from within their cabinet offices. It's a new day in Manitoba, Honorable Speaker, and I am so thrilled that our government is taking students who want to be put to work seriously. The previous government fired hundreds of nurses, created chaos in hospitals, and made deep cuts across Manitoba's healthcare system for 7.5 years, Honorable Speaker.
Shame.
Our government recognizes that healthcare starts on the front lines. They care for us, we ought to care for them. So while the PCs fired thousands of healthcare workers, and they heckle and deny it many, many times at this chamber, but my mom was one of them. The member for Kildonan River East's mom was one of them. Many members in this House come from families who were destabilized because they were one of the many families who lost breadwinners, Honorable Speaker, under their draconian cuts. Honorable Speaker, that's why our government understands the depth of retaining, of recruiting healthcare workers, of ensuring that healthcare workers who devote their lives to ensuring that we have the care that we need are cared for similarly. Our recruitment and retention office, established last year, has helped bring Manitoba nurses out from retirement, has helped bring them out from a community when they were forced not to practice, has brought new ones in from out of province who were internationally educated and from the private into the public system. Manitobans elected us because they knew that they deserved an ambitious government, Honourable Speaker, an ambitious government with ambitious targets and ambitious plans to meet them. Though Manitobans aren't just getting ambition by electing our NDP government, Honourable Speaker, they're getting results. Last year, our government set a goal to hire 1,000 new healthcare workers. The media doubted us, members opposite the PCs continue to doubt us, as you can hear, Honourable Speaker, though not only did we deliver on our target, but we blew right past it, with 1,255 net new healthcare workers already. With more healthcare workers at the bedside, we're ready to add 97 new beds to hospitals across Manitoba. The new beds added in this budget add to the 233 beds added since forming government to bring a total of 330 new beds, fully staffed beds, across our province. These new beds will help to reduce the strain on ERs, match patients to the right level of care, reduce wait times, and provide better care for patients. Honourable Speaker, it'll take years to undo the damage caused by members opposite who continue to heckle me. The failed PC government and their hostility towards public services, but we're prepared to deliver real results because that's what Manitobans deserve. Our work to bolster the front lines has had measurable results. The Winnipeg Regional Health Authority reported a 45% reduction in mandatory overtime for nurses between October 2023, when we took power, and October 2024, just last year. This reduction means improved care for patients and improved work-life balance and workplace safety for frontline workers. Now, everyone deserves the right to feel safe at work, Honourable Speaker. For too long, the healthcare workers who care for our province have had that right stripped away. That's why we're steadily working to ensure that they have the support that they need. We have added 96 institutional safety officers to the front line since 2023, with more on the way to Thompson. Weapon scanners have also been permanently installed at Health Sciences Centre. Honourable Speaker, it is beyond any of us why healthcare workers must be subject to such dangerous working conditions, but we're working every single day to improve what they have to face every day coming to work. Honourable Speaker, so our incredible finance minister has done his due diligence and ensured that we are prepared in the event of sustained tariffs on Canada. But our contingency plan to Trump-proof the Manitoba economy isn't the only plan B in our budget, Honourable Speaker. Ooh. Our government takes women's health care, especially reproductive rights, seriously. That's why we're protecting reproductive rights and, since being introduced in 2024, almost 32,000 Manitobans have accessed free birth control. We're expanding that program to include Plan B contraceptives to ensure that Manitobans can make the reproductive choices that are right for them. We are committed to supporting the matriarchs in Manitoba and funding often overlooked healthcare for women. A new $1.1 million will recruit midwives for positions in Manitoba. We're building a mature women's centre at the Vic that was closed by the previous government. Through a new federal-provincial partnership, we are investing $10 million for hormone replacement therapy to support women in menopause and perimenopause. Honourable Speaker, our 2025 budget is bringing historical capital investments to our great province in infrastructure, industry, and healthcare. These investments will grow our economy, create good jobs for Manitobans, and make our province more resilient to whatever the future may hold. Our government is answering the call of Manitobans to invest in health, affordability, education, and community safety. We have heard the calls of young people who are ready to be put to work, building a better future for our province. Manitobans are hardworking, innovative, and resilient. No matter what happens, we will make it through together by building one Manitoba. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Order, please. Before recognizing the next member to speak in debate, I have to point out that earlier in the debate today, the member for Portage La Prairie rose on House business and tabled the document as I had requested. Unfortunately, for part of that period, there was a problem with his mic, so I just want the record to clearly reflect that the member for Portage La Prairie tabled the documents as requested. The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to rise and put words on the record addressing something that is of most pressing importance to Manitobans and our Manitoba economy right now, and that is the 2025 budget. While the budget has been brought forward as a responsible plan for the future, the reality is that the budget falls short in many critical areas. It fails to provide realistic solutions for economic growth, essential services, and long-term fiscal responsibility. Honourable Speaker, I am proud to represent a constituency in Manitoba driven by commerce and trade and based in agriculture. Unfortunately, this 2025 provincial budget is a socialist playlist. And I think a comment was well made by Margaret Thatcher that the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. And that's exactly what Budget 25 is. Budget 25 does not bring forward any plan to drive the economy and the entrepreneurs that lead this province. Instead, what we see is a further socialist playlist for the province of Manitoba. And I'd like to raise attention to the negative effects that a progress in socialism has had for growing this province. When we go out and look at the schools built around this province, the communities that have been built to support the economy and the people within those communities and economy, they were built under a conservative government with capitalist outlooks for our province. Unfortunately, right now, we've lost track of what it takes to move our province forward. Right now, we've got a heavily rooted socialist NDP government that is trying to address items of the budget that build our province. Infrastructure is one of those, and we'll address them. Unfortunately, I'm running out of today's time, but look forward to the 17 minutes that I have next week. The first thing to address is the unrealistic revenue projections in this budget. We're talking about revenue that's unrealistic, and it goes back to the phrase, the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. This government had projected revenue growth that simply does not align with economic trends. They claim that increased taxation...
Order, please. The hour being 12:30. When this matter is next before the House, the honourable member will have 17 minutes remaining. The hour being 12:30, this House is adjourned and stands adjourned until 1:30 on Monday, the 7th of April.